Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. It's good to be back, dear friends. I'd like to share some reflections on freedom in everyday life. In my last talk, I spoke about the freedom that is beyond experience, the non-experience of nibbana, timeless, placeless, selfless. And from that vantage point, I made a few comments about how we can infuse our everyday life with the coolness and the freedom of nibbanic realization. And so today I'd like to say a few more words on that one, on how it is possible to maintain this sense of freedom within the ups and downs, the warp and woof of everyday life. In order to speak about freedom, it's important to realize that the word freedom is simply a label. It's a label for a certain realization that emerges from that unborn dimension of our being. Even the word being can often be misconstrued as some kind of substance at the heart of ourselves. But no, when I use the word being, I'm simply using it as a label for that same empty, transparent, unconditioned realization or recognition that is beyond any concept of substance or self or entity. However, in the flow of language and communication, I'm using these words in a rather spontaneous way so that we can get a sense of what I'm talking about. Now, a mind that is cool, a mind that is free from the entrapment of its hopes and fears, desires and aversions, its reactivity, its delusion of self-grasping. A mind that is free from all that is a mind that necessarily has touched that dimensionless freedom of nibbana. And it is possible through an ongoing, sustained flow of insight to have that sense of coolness, though not with the same depth or intensity, but a certain sense of unfetteredness, of letting go in the midst of our day-to-day experience. And this is the freedom that is something we can all potentially actualize in our everyday life. And that is possible because nothing is fixed or permanent in experience. Not even the experience of delusion, of grasping, or reactivity. None of that is fixed and unchanging. The reality of our experience is momentary dissolution. And because of impermanence, this sheer contingency of experience, therefore, the possibility of freedom, of that free, naked, unbound recognition or realization of nibbana is possible. When we can acknowledge and embrace this sheer impermanence of our existence, then we are no longer so fixated on having things occur a certain way. In fact, we can not only acknowledge impermanence, we can embrace it. Impermanence is Buddha nature, according to Dogen Zenji, 12th century Zen master from Japan. In his essay, Impermanence is Buddha Nature, he is pointing out to us that there's no such things as a Buddha nature standing outside our experience, but rather Buddha nature is the very changingness, the very dynamism of experience. In fact, this impermanence of life, this flow of life itself, is an expression of Buddha nature. And this expression pervades the entire cosmos, from the tiniest sentient being or the tiniest speck of dust to the greatest, biggest galaxy. So, if impermanence is Buddha nature, as Dogen Zenji has advised us, then we can have a free, open, and fluid relationship in the midst of this ongoing change, a relationship with the totality of life. In fact, we might even say that relationship is life. Life is relationship. And impermanence points to this utter relationality of life itself. Dogen, in his classic Shobo Genzo, Treasury of the Eye of the True Dharma, has a very beautiful and poetic chapter called Sansuikyo, Mountains and Waters Sutra. And I'd like to read out a few passages from that Mountains and Waters Sutra to give us a sense of what Dogen is trying to point to, something that he's asking us to have a taste of. And I read, mountains walking is just like human walking. Accordingly, do not doubt mountains walking, even though it does not look the same as human walking. The Buddha ancestors' words point to walking. This is fundamental understanding. Penetrate these words. That's what Dogen said. Penetrate these words. Mountain walking, human walking, same. Even though they might look very different. But what does it mean to say mountain walking? Well, to me, it suggests that mountains are not fixed, solid, inherent, unchanging things. Mountains are moving, dissolving, changing, moment by moment. Just as a human being is moving, changing, dissolving, moment by moment. The human dissolution and the mountain dissolution may appear different, but it's the same underlying truth. Dissolving, changing, moving. Same. Another passage is beautiful. Dogen says, speaking of mind and speaking of essence is not agreeable to Buddha ancestors. Seeing into mind, seeing into essence is the activity of people outside the way. Confined words and phrases do not lead to liberation. There is something free from all of these views. That is, green mountains are always walking, and eastern mountains travel on water. Study this in detail. Amazing, right? Dogen seems to be telling us, at least for me, forget about trying to get at some essence or substance of things. Forget about this whole obsession with the essence or substance of reality, something that is permanent, that lies at the ground of our existence. To try to seek for this essence is the activity of someone outside the way. The way of what? The way of the Buddha ancestors, the way of true enlightenment. So for those who are walking the way, who are on the way of the Buddha ancestors, they do not fixate on essence or on substance, but rather they see that green mountains are always walking. Green suggests new, fresh, right? Everything that is new, that is fresh, they are changing, dissolving moment by moment. And eastern mountains travel on water. Eastern mountains travel on water. East is always a sort of a prime location, isn't it? Whatever is important, whatever is exalted, even that is traveling on water. It's flowing like water. It is similarly part of the whole transient nature of reality. And that transiency, that impermanence is Buddha nature, right? What a sense of freedom of the spirit, freedom of the heart, when this whole heart, mind, this whole sense of existence can be completely permeated by this dynamism, this complete letting go in the very moment that we are alive. We are no longer fixating, clinging, wanting things to be a certain way, but completely in the flow, in the current of the Tao, of the way of the way things are. This is justice. It is like this. It is like this. So, dear friends, I hope these words of Dogen have illuminated our understanding, your understanding, and will encourage you to engage in your own process of inquiry, of bright awareness, to see things as they are. And in so doing, realize that freedom in everyday life. Ad Maiorem Dei Gloriam, for the greater glory of God. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, all empty from their own side, all walking and flowing like water.